Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, coming to you from the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Realty. HittnerGroup.com, Hittner Group, all one word. HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. Got that phone number out there without any interruption and without screwing it up at all. Got
Good job.
Clean job. That's a sign. That's a phone number you see on all the signs around town. And if you would like to have a conversation with us, no cost and absolutely no obligation. All right, here's where we're coming into the end of the year, kids. Look at this. Inventory. 5726 homes on the market right now.
Okay.
In 22, 1 year ago, Kelvin, for people from your part of the country, in 1 year ago, it was 5497.
Okay.
Not bad. About the same.
Inventory's up.
Yeah, a little bit better than going the other way.
Yep.
New pendings this week, 592. Still some activity. A year ago it was 580. So it's just like the market's flat as far as activity-wise. I think we're kind of just rolling on down the hill here, waiting for something to happen. It's kind of what it looks like. Otherwise the same reports as the whole rest of the year. No point in repeating it. It's just interest rate crush down. Goldman Sachs had a forecast that came out that was out of line with everybody else.
Right.
Significantly. So either they're geniuses and people are going to say, wow, how did they know that? Or someone's getting fired.
And what was the report?
The report was they said that next year was going to be horrible. The year after, 25, is horrible. They didn't see a recovery in real estate, in the real estate volume, units sold, until 27. That's when they see it coming back, 27.
So what? So the report you're talking about was new home sales?
Not new home sales.
Just home sales.
Home sales.
Okay, home sales.
So
that it would be flat, bad, what?
Flat all next year, about
Flat.
the same
Okay.
number of units this year as next year, which is 30% below market. Same thing happening, even though they are forecast. I have another site that I've been watching lately. It's the interest rate forecast market. You ever look at that, Calvin? Pretty interesting. The interest rate. This company's been doing this. I have the thing on here. I'll look at it during the break so we know what we're talking about. But they had they forecast interest rates, and they're pretty darn accurate in terms of their forecasting. They say that the rates will be in the sixes by second trimester.
We're in the sixes
We're in
now.
sixes now.
Well, I mean low sixes, fives,
Okay.
sixes down. You're in the sixes now if you buy the rate down. with
Yeah,
the point.
if you
Well,
do
you
like
put
a
an origination
yeah.
fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not if you
Well,
buy the
that's-
rate down.
That is buying the rate down.
Well, it's
it's about
normal
the same
origination
thing,
fee.
Yeah, but there hasn't been an origination fee for
There has
10
been for
years.
2 years now,
Yeah,
though.
I know it. But it's still 1 point.
It's no buy down. No buy down.
Okay.
There's no buy down.
Yeah, it is.
You can buy it down.
1 point origination fee with at par with no origination fee, we're over 7%. By midsummer, at par with no origination
Well, there's
fee,
no
we'll
free
be at
lunch.
6%.
What the hell you think is going on? You got to pay for your
Pay for
something.
Yeah, well, how
Guys
come we
trying to
didn't
make
have
a
to pay
living.
for it before?
Because the government has artificially decreased interest rates for us.
Yeah.
So forget about everybody else. What
Okay.
are your predictions then, Keith Sr.?
Well, Keith Sr. says, we see it coming down right now. The unemployment rate came out. We're seeing companies laying off, which is what they are hoping for.
Yep.
We're seeing companies their inventory is building. We're seeing credit card debt.
Wow.
My goodness. Is really
Off the charts.
Yeah, over $1 trillion this week for the first time ever.
Yep.
$1 trillion of credit card debt. All of those things will lead to.
And $1 trillion of debt running over 20% interest.
Yeah.
I know.
That's the thing.
Doggone
it.
So if you are, and you can talk about in the fourth Kelvin. So, I mean, if you're sitting there and you're carrying $35,000 in credit card debt every month, like a lot of people are at 26% interest rate, wow.
Yeah.
That's a hit. I mean, your minimum payments you don't even tread water on that deal. So refi, and you got a house that's at 3% interest. Take out a second or do a refi or something and get rid of that. But then don't build it back up again. That's the real kicker.
Yeah. I think if you're in that position, it's hard for you to maybe qualify for a line of credit or something like that. If you're accumulating debt on a monthly basis and you're sitting on credit card debt at 20-some% interest, even if you're in a good position in your own home to take out a home equity line of credit, it would be tough to do. But
well, the only way you do it is if you do refi the whole thing and you pay off those debts at close. Yeah.
Right.
So we get rid of the payments. You qualify.
Yeah. So I'm going to get back to my question. Okay. What is your prediction? Because you got off on
so I think that...
So maybe that's your why, but what's the prediction?
Okay, so the forecast for me is that next year, I think we're going to be a flat market all next year. I think you'll see an uptick in the second trimester. You'll see a little bit of a stronger...
Is it sort of like an uptick or just like...
Well, a stronger summer than we had this year.
Okay. Next year. 2024.
2024 will be a little bit stronger, a little stronger June, July, and August.
Just in overall sales?
Just in overall sales than we had this year. And then the fourth quarter is going to be kind of the third trimester will be kind of a sideways deal again because of the election cycle and all that stuff. Everyone's just distracted, and it's just going to be not that great. You're going to see that what are they forecasting now? Three reductions in the Fed rate next year.
They say 4 starting in the second half.
Yeah. So that's they're gonna move heaven and earth to try to get those rates down. It has nothing to do with the economy at this point. It's just all about the political positioning.
Right.
Which is, I don't really care the why of it right now. We need to get the rates down. So that we can move some properties, because you're going to have some people that people just need to move.
What about value? So you think that sales will be flat in 2024?
Okay, so there's two conversations there. Good point. There's sales, and then there's volume in terms of units. So volume will be up.
Oh, value, I said.
Yeah, well, about volume. Values will be up. Still, they're going to track with inflation, 3.5%, 4%. I still think we're going to see that pretty
Really?
steady.
You think you're going to see home prices increase next year?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Stop to think about it. I mean, just why wouldn't you? Is our new construction costs going down? No. Are building material costs going down? No. Is labor costs going down? No. We've got strikes now that we haven't had in 15, 20 years. We haven't had strikes. Now we got strikes for more money because of inflation.
Don't you think building costs have come down a little bit because there are such supply chain issues that it went up, and now supply chain has loosened up, and now costs are coming back down a little bit, or not? Or
no,
you're not
I mean your trading costs. Lumber prices are down a little bit.
Right.
But sheetrock prices, insulation, shingles, all those costs are still up, and it's like anything else. Price goes up, comes down a little.
Yeah, I think
price goes up, comes down a little. Stair steps its way up. Just never. And then labor costs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got so much labor into a stick-built house. So we talk about new construction because the whole market tracks with new construction. So new construction is like a leading indicator of pricing.
Yeah. So you think that values will increase in 2024, and you think the volume or sales activity will be flat?
Relatively flat, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in 2024 that we're probably going to see a reduction in real estate values. And I think that volume will be flat to decreased. I think that what we're going to have, the effects of this year's market going down impact next year's sales. I think new construction prices are coming down. I think builder margins are going to be less because they need to move through inventory. So, the cost of everything has changed a little bit. It has come down, like you had said. Lumber prices are a little bit less. Materials are a little bit less. I do agree that labor is expensive, but I think builder margins and incentivizing and things like that will continue to be the environment that the builders are dealing with. I agree with you that new construction does drive that, and I think with reduction in building prices or the cost, the sales price of properties, will continue to bring that number down. I think builders will continue to ratchet down a little bit in order to move inventory through as opposed to sitting on it. I've seen it just in the last quarter of this year where homes, maybe that closed in this quarter, fourth quarter of 2023, that were being marketed for much more money in the summer of last year. And so to see that continue to come down, I think that the rates decreasing in the middle of the year will help and then change things moving forward. So I think we'll have a decrease in values in 2024. Not drastic, but a decrease. And I think that volume will be flat to less than, and 2025 will start to come back up for us. Hopefully. That's my prediction. You can mark it. We'll check back then, and
I'll tell you the truth in the fourth.
Next year.
Perfect.
This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. You can call us at 612-627-8000 or log on to our website, HittnerGroup.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Realty. HittnerGroup.com, HITTNER Group.com, HITTNER Group.com. 612-627-8000 is the phone number to call. 612-627-8000. All right, so we got Jeff Johnson in the studio. Jeff is a mediator, a divorce mediation. So we're going to talk through what that means. What's the difference, first of all, between mediation and arbitration?
The biggest thing on the difference between mediation and arbitration is mediation, you facilitate the conversation, but the decision is always left in the hands of the people that you're meeting with. So you're trying to get to a solution, but the mediator does not have any decision-making authority.
Okay.
Arbitration is where they do get to make a decision. So some of the roles that I have, like a parenting consultant, it's a mediation arbitration role.
All right.
You try to work through things. If you can't, you can make a decision and your decisions become court orders.
Okay. So,
so you have the ability to do that as well?
As a parenting consultant or a parenting time expediter.
Really?
Yep, I can make those, and those become court orders. But mediation, you don't have any decision-making authority.
Okay, interesting.
So is mediation required?
Mediation is required, but most people don't talk about it as a requirement because sometimes in the traditional sense they'd go out and get attorneys. They try to work through all of their issues and try to get everything all done. But if they don't come to an agreement, they can't go directly to the court. They are required to go through mediation first, make a good faith effort, which is kind of backwards.
Yeah.
You should start with mediation, try to work through everything you possibly can. If you can't, then you can go through litigation to try to get some things resolved.
And start spending a lot of money.
And emphasis on a lot of money.
Yeah, to get very little in return.
Yes.
So
if you do go to attorneys at first and then everything works out hunky-dory, there is no mediation that's needed.
No, there wouldn't be.
Okay.
Nope.
all right, so just walk us through the process then. If we're in divorce season right
Yes.
now. So, I mean, it's
Yep.
we're in the middle of a divorce season.
Why do you say that?
Well, because
Holidays are...
the holidays, a lot of times they want to have the last Christmas in the house, and they've maybe been already kind of talking about it over here, but they haven't made the announcement yet that they're going to be splitting. The kids are coming back from college for their last stay at home during college, and they'll wait till they go back off to school. And so,
What a sad conversation.
well, I mean, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the cycle, and so then they make the decision. They wait till after all this is back, and then they drop the bomb in January and February.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
Yeah, January is the biggest year.
Yeah.
So now
Really?
I'm doing free consultations right now, and the conversation is just what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's everybody's coming back from Christmas. We want to keep it intact, and then in January we're going to start.
Mm-hmm.
And so January is one of our biggest months of the year
For what?
for getting started with divorce process. Yep.
Okay, so tell us what that process looks like then.
So on the process starts with a free consultation to really talk with the couple to see if they can do mediation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assessing whether they're a good candidate for mediation.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yep.
How can they get a hold of you then for that initial consultation, and then you can talk more about it?
Yeah, there's two ways they can get a hold of me directly through my cell phone, which is 612-770-4895, or go to my website, which is www.johnson-mediation.com.
Easy.
Link right there, free consultation. I'll talk all about litigation, mediation, and what's right for them.
Cool.
Okay, so they called. You got a couple that sometimes they're still talking to one another. Sometimes it's World War III. So,
Right.
they reach out to you and they schedule an appointment. Is that in person, or is that a Zoom call, or how does that work?
Since COVID hit, everything has gone on to Zoom.
Okay.
So everything is now on Zoom, so they now don't have to be in the same room. On some of those contentious ones that you talked about are much easier now. So they can be in separate locations, be on separate screens, and if it gets too heated up, we can put it
turn
into
some video
breakout
off.
rooms.
Maybe there's too much. Yeah, there's
That's
too
right.
much nonverbals going on over here. We're going to have to shut your video
Yeah,
off
that's
for a
right.
minute.
That's
Is that right?
Yeah. So, and it's safer for me.
Oh, yeah,
because
right.
it can get a little bit heated in those rooms. So now it's all on Zoom. So we meet. We have a free consultation to go through all of the contents that we work through, assets, liabilities, the financials, and the parenting plan if they have kids.
And then
What's the hardest piece of that? You gave three
Kids.
pillars there.
Kids.
Kids is?
Yeah,
Okay.
kids is typically the most emotional, and about the kids and getting that set up. Second one would be the finances. And I've made all the money. I should get all the assets.
right.
Doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Are there some pretty standard, just like this is what you do? So it's not a conversation as much. It's just like, well, it's half. That's what the court will say, and it's this much
Right.
per kid. I mean, is it all laid out so you don't have to you just have to educate them and say, hey, this is what you're going to run into in court. So why don't you just wrap it up?
Yeah. So one of the biggest differences between litigation and mediation is litigation starts. It's more of an adversarial, positional-based bargaining approach. And they take these positions that are extreme, they negotiate to the middle. When I start after the free consultation, I develop all of the documents with an attorney that does the drafting behind the scenes. And what happens is we start in the middle on what the court is likely to do, and then tell me why it should be different than that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's so much faster, so much more efficient. And then from there we work through and get everything settled in probably one session, as opposed to, and our typical length of time is about 2 months, where with litigation it could be 6 months, 9 months, a year, or longer.
Because it takes so long to have the conversation, then go in your corners, and then
Yes.
come back out, see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No.
when you've started with these extreme positions, then they're negotiating something to the middle. And when you start in the middle, then you're almost there. Yeah.
So describe middle.
So in the
Right.
middle,
You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
it's my perception is going to be different
Right.
of middle than Keith's might be, or
Right.
you know.
So in Wisconsin, it's a community property state. It's a 50-50 state.
Okay.
Minnesota, it's a fair and equitable state. And fair and equitable is not necessarily equal, but we start kind of with equal. And then from there, people describe, well, I brought this in to the relationship, or I did this. And if the couple agrees on something, the court isn't going to undo it.
They're not.
No, even if it's not 50-50. If they believe that it's fair and equitable, that is the way we draft the documents, submit them to the court, and the judge will sign off on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you find yourself in cases where you've met with people, and for one reason or another, I'm thinking third party influence, where they kind of had an agreement and they go off to their separate worlds, and all of a sudden you got somebody whispering in one person's ear and someone else whispering in the other person's ear, and all of a sudden it's like,
usually the attorney.
yeah. Well, this is
Usually the attorney.
And this is
know.
before.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yeah, or a girlfriend says, "Oh no, you're getting screwed here. You're gonna, you need to get an attorney."
For sure.
And then all of a sudden you get an attorney involved, and it seems like the whole process just kind of
Blows up.
Blows up.
Yeah, it happens. It happens because in mediation, oftentimes we'll have an agreement that they both feel really happy with, but they do have some of those armchair quarterbacks that are giving them some advice that well, in my divorce it happened like this, but
Right.
every case is so unique, and their situation is much different.
Right.
Or to your point, I think this is good for me, but let me review it with an attorney. And the attorney will go, I can get a lot more for you than that. Well, that's going to be at the expense of the other person.
Sure.
And now some of those blow up and don't settle until tens of thousands of dollars
and at the
later.
expense of themselves too. I mean, I see it a lot in real estate transactions where we're very close on everything and things are going well and we're going to list the property for sale, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now, hey, she lawyered up or he lawyered up, and now we got to just put everything on hold here, and so and that's typically when it happens.
Yep.
And I'm not taking anything against away from attorneys and how they can help people in a divorce situation. But it can also complicate things when you're at mediation and you've already kind of gone through the same types of conversations that you're going to have. The conversation seems to just shift, though, when the attorney comes into play.
Yeah.
As opposed to just together trying to work through it in a mediation situation.
Right. Yep. It often happens. And I've had people, we've had the mediation, we've had a settlement, they've gone out and done attorneys, and then 2 years later they finally settled, and they'll come back to me and say, you know what, we settled for what you said we would settle for. But we spent $50,000 each to get to that point again where we were when we were with you.
Are there standard rules of thumb around how long maintenance is paid or how long things like that?
Yeah. So child support, there's a child support calculator guidelines that you put in the incomes, parenting time, and it really is going to give you kind of what the financials are for covering the kids' expenses. Spousal maintenance there is a rule of thumb that's usually half the duration of the marriage around spousal maintenance. That's kind of the rule of thumb, and then it can be negotiated up or down from there based on their particular situation.
All right,
Jeff knows what he's talking about here for sure. So a probably safe way to connect with you would be online first.
Yes.
Check out your website. Give us that website.
www.johnson-mediation.com.
And your phone number's there as well. So check out johnson-mediation.com if you're in the divorce season like many others right now. You can log on to our website at hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com, or as always on the old telephone, 612-627-8000.
Hey, welcome back to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com. With Coldwell Banker Realty, 612-627-8000. That's the big phone number. That's the one everybody's calling to get that good free initial consultation with no cost and absolutely no obligation. All right, we're speaking with Jeff Johnson here. We're talking about mediation and divorce. We're in divorce season right now. And the big month is coming up, January, going to knock them down.
Right.
People coming in, just exploring what their options are, trying to work out an agreement in the meantime of how they're going to settle. What are we talked about kids. In the last segment, you talked about three pillars, really.
Yep.
It was money, kids, and spousal maintenance, right? Yep. Let's talk about kids. Define kids?
Yeah.
Right? Because lots of times people have children and they're past 18, but they still have some obligation with those as a family.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Help get those kids through college and pay for weddings and all of that kind of future obligation stuff. How has that worked out?
Yeah, I think the key word is obligation. So your legal obligation is until your children emancipate. And emancipation is 18 years of age or graduates from high school, whichever's later.
Okay.
And so at that point in time, your legal obligation ends.
All right.
At that point in time. Then it becomes basically what you want to contribute to the kids above and beyond there. So most of the time, once the kids are emancipated, they are now adults, then you're kind of left to figure out with your parenting partner on how much you're going to fund for weddings and different things that happen along the way.
All right, so it's been my experience we do a lot of divorces. Half the people get divorced. So obviously the real estate, we get involved in a lot of divorces. You hear all the war stories, and you've got people who have kids that are college age, and they want to fund it and help them get established and stuff, because that is their obligation. One side will feel that. Attorneys get involved, and it's suddenly like they don't want to talk about them anymore. It's just not part of the conversation anymore.
Right.
And if you try to bring that in to the conversation, it's almost like they shut it right out. They don't want to hear about. Why is that?
Yeah, they're like I said, their obligation is they don't have an obligation to fund them. But in mediation, we do talk about your legal obligation to fund, but also where are you at as far as funding college goes? Mm-hmm. Because you can put provisions in your divorce decree that talks about how you'll fund college, If you do that, then you're obligated to that.
Okay.
If you're silent on it, it's not in there, you're not legally obligated.
Then it's just more of an agreement saying, hey, can
Right.
we agree that we're going to share costs, or can we agree?
But
then,
that
you know.
has no teeth.
Has no teeth.
So can't you then say, so you have this pool of marital assets, and you can say, okay, we're gonna divide these marital assets in this method, but we're gonna take some of these marital assets prior to division,
Yep.
and we're gonna put them in this fund over here,
Yes.
and it's set aside to fund this activity that we've both agreed upon is our obligation as a family.
Yes.
To fund weddings and so forth. And then what's left is the amount that gets split. Is that a reasonable approach to
Yeah,
it?
sometimes that does happen. And sometimes, if it is a spousal maintenance type case, either the husband that is going to be paying the wife, or the wife paying the husband a spousal maintenance, the person that's paying, it's a lot easier if you're going to fund a college than you're going to fund your ex-spouse.
Uh-huh.
So oftentimes we have conversations about money's going to go into there, so that they know that, once the kids, once they do divorce, then the college is going to be funded going forward. It won't be coming to them, but they won't have that future expense coming then either.
So is that then on top of the spousal maintenance? So if someone's going to, I'll pick a number out of the air. So it's like, okay, we figured out that spousal maintenance is going to be $4,000 a month, and we'll talk about how that's derived at in a minute. But it's $4,000 a month, and then because one or another isn't maybe working or has a not quite as a high paying job or something like that, so there's a deficiency. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need for spousal maintenance. So that now we're going to put this money in the fund for the kids. Well, who's putting the money in there? Number one, first of all, and secondly, if I'm putting $1,000 a month in that fund, or $500, whatever, does that mean now I'm paying $3,500 a month for spousal maintenance? Is there a reduction there somehow, or is it just like, well, that person gets their money, and then I have to pay it. Now I get to do this too.
So spousal maintenance is actually a really easy calculation, because what we end up doing is taking and creating two budgets, one for each of them on forward-looking on what their expenses are going to be in the future. Then we take their individual incomes and put it over the top of that to see if there's a shortage on one side of the person that needs that money and an overage on the other side. And as we create the budgets, we look at whether or not there is college funding in those budgets.
All right.
So if there's college funding on this budget, the person is going to be receiving some, then it's already included in there. If it's not going to be included in there, the other person's going to pick it up. They could have less spousal maintenance, and then they're going to be funding the college on this side. So it all depends on how those budgets are structured.
You said it's pretty easy. You do two budgets. I would disagree, because that budgeting process is where
The problem.
the problem is, because now,
Padding.
hey, I need this and this and this, and now you're coming in with a budget of $10,000 a month, and you've never lived on that in your entire life. That's bull.
So that is the difficult part. The easy part is,
say something.
financially, it's you got the two budgets, you got the income to figure it out is fine. The difficulty lies in what is that budget.
Right.
And that's where the conversation in mediation is talking about, making sure, because I do 200 to 250 divorces a year, and I'm doing spousal maintenance in many of those cases. And so I'm looking at budgets all the time on what's realistic and what is it, because budget should be, what do you need, not what you want.
Right.
So
How much does lifestyle play into that budget? So, so Keith is married, and they have a lifestyle that is running at X, and now they're getting divorced. Is there a lifestyle thing in there, or is it just like, hey, you need this for food and shelter and clothing?
That is one of the things that I wish I could take out of the statutes altogether. Is I'm used to the lifestyle I was accustomed to while I was married.
Right.
Because I have to explain, you were in one home before. Now
Right.
you're going into two homes.
And
You're
both
not-
people can't have the
You're
same
not
lifestyle.
going to have the lifestyle again. Neither one of you are going to have that lifestyle again. So it's that, bringing them back to reality that is not going to happen. So we got to figure out, because there's a finite amount of money and there's these expenses that need to get paid, and you're both going to have to share in that pain.
With the maintenance, now we talked about how it was determined. sometimes there's, most of the time there's a house. Someone maybe wants to buy, I'll buy you out. How has the increase in interest rates impacted that ability?
Big time, because when interest rates were reducing, it was advantageous to refinance the home, get cash out of there to pay the equity. The other person that was not keeping the home, their half of the equity of the home, it was great. And then they would get a lower interest rate when they refinance. Now, with interest rates going back up, I'm seeing people hang on to the homes longer, and especially when there's kids, and so they're going to jointly own that home and sell it in the future possibly, and then split the equity at that point in time. Or we're looking at dipping into retirement incomes or retirement assets
off over here,
pay off over there. So we have to look at different ways to kind of get that equity
certainly
out.
Complicates the scenario.
Complicates it. It's much more difficult now.
Well, anytime you try to forecast into the future, and have an agreement today on a future event that may or may not happen, it's problematic. Both from a budgeting and spousal maintenance standpoint, because you can set your spousal maintenance and one or the other gets a different job and all the numbers kind of blow up. How often can you go back to the well on that and revisit that?
Depends if so spousal maintenance can either be modifiable or non-modifiable in the divorce decree.
All right.
So some people want to set them out and they don't want to have to worry about it, and it becomes non-modifiable. Others are going, well, there could be some changes in the future. We're going to leave it as modifiable. So if there's a change in circumstances, we can come back and renegotiate then based on either new incomes or other expenses. And so I do a lot of that post-decree work after and things happen where somebody get a new big job, somebody loses a job.
Or wins the lottery. That's a problem. You just can't.
Yeah. Wins the lottery is going to be different because that's going to be a non-marital asset that happened afterwards, and it's not going to be a source of income that's going to happen necessarily for them right away.
What do you typically recommend in terms of modifiable or non-modifiable? And why don't we hit that in the fourth segment, because you should bring us out right now based on time.
Yes, again, we're talking with Jeff Johnson. Johnson-mediation.com is the best place to start out.
And his phone number?
And his phone number is 612-770-4895. I'm reading Calvin's
chicken scratch
elementary handwriting.
That was
but we got
perfect
it.
penmanship.
Johnson-mediation.com. Our website is hittnergroup.com. You're listening to Real Estate Chalk Talk. Give us a call, 612-627-8000. That number again is 612-627-8000, and we'll be right back.
A wrap.
Money in the bank.
Rates are good. Pretty exciting.
You know why? Why?
Free money. You understand?
Welcome back to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, the big money segment of the program. We out to break. We were with Jeff Johnson. Calvin, why don't you just kind of pick it up?
Well, we did a couple of predictions at the beginning of the show. I'm sure everybody's still listening.
Okay.
From first segment, predictions on the market for 2024 and kind of what the projections are right now. It's very popular to be publishing from places from Goldman Sachs to Yahoo News or wherever it is, kind of saying what's the real estate market going to be like over the next 1 to 3 years.
Right.
And Calvin, we've been waiting patiently.
You have been waiting patiently, and I also sent you off some stuff from Byron Belsky that we're going to try to get on the show as well. Who
I did listen to about 20 minutes of that program.
It's about an hour plus podcast he did there, but hit the mark. He was the number one guy again this past year. So we'll get on to some of that. So my prediction this year is that we are going to see mortgage interest rates. They're already coming down. We're back. We can keep the theme song, thank goodness.
We're back.
We're back. Free money. We're under 6, not under 6, under 7, not 8.
But heading to under 6.
Oh, we're going in the right direction. So I feel really good about where we're at. I think we're going to end up high 5s, low 6s early in 2024.
What's early?
May?
June, no. Probably first quarter. Towards the end of the first quarter, I think we're going to hit mid 6s, which is great. I think we're going to have a fury of activity. I think prices are going to stay level and increase a little bit, but maybe 2-3%, but that's it. And but there's going to be a ton of activity because people are on the sidelines now with high rates. I can't tell you how many people we have. They're just like waiting for rates to come down. So we're going to have this, again, overbidding crap that you guys love. I think we're going to start to see some of that End of February, March, I think we're going to have a robust year. I think we're going to be off the charts.
Off the charts.
Off the charts.
Very
Huge
specific.
year.
And
big year.
And you think that we're going to be down? Prices are going to be down, and volume will be down.
I think
for
that
24.
prices will continue to soften as they have. If anybody says that prices haven't softened, they're
I
lying to
agree
you.
they have. I think we're going to see prices up. First quarter, not. I think we are. I agree. We are going to see, and we are seeing softening of prices in the first quarter, and I think that they will recover nicely along with interest rate decline. And by this time next year, we're going to be up about 4%.
Yep.
Over.
I probably lean more towards where you're at.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be in great shape. And the biggest thing is attitude. Attitude is, quite honestly, you talk to a lot of people in your industry, and it's amazing. The people that have a good attitude, like, hey, we're coming, it's going to be good, they're busy. They're busy. And then there's other people like, oh, the market's horrible, and this, and they're not busy. It's like, no shit. It's part of your attitude towards the market is going to be what you receive out of the market.
Right.
So you can always find what you want in life, right? So if you want things to be good, you can find good. If you want things to be bad, you can find bad, right? Life principle. Write that down. You want to write that down? All right.
It's
Tattoo that.
Got it.
So that's what's going on there.
Shoulder.
What helped rates this past week come from, we were high sevens down. Is you saw the producer price index. Everything is cooled off. Inflation is cooled off. Which is great. But you're going to keep what's interesting is you're going to see those increase at 7-8% inflation. Those prices are here to stay. And now they're just like we talked about a year ago, it's going to go up. And then when they measure year over year, like, oh, it's okay. We're not increasing. Well, geez, everything's more expensive, right? And then they did the core rate, which strips out food and energy, which is the most important thing. And that as well is going down or staying flat,
down.
right?
If you get any of your energy bills and you look at the comparison year over year, it's less expensive.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
That's because it went like this,
Right.
It went through the roof, and now, so it's such.
But if you look at gas prices right now, gas prices are down.
Yep.
Right, a little bit.
Yep.
But they're still $1 a gallon more than they were a couple of years ago.
Right.
So it's like that money, and that's why you're seeing unions striking now, and you see companies like Starbucks fighting off organization and all that in all their stores, because yes, inflation itself has stopped going up, like it was going up before, but we've leveled off at a tier that's higher than it was, and now people just need the money. They need more money.
Yep.
More money, which is going to lock those prices in, because that all gets passed through. All that labor costs, all that, just we were talking about with new construction. Labor costs go up. The builders, here's how they do it, and I've done this many times with new construction. They change the models. They'll change the standards.
Okay.
Right? So they'll put in a little cheaper cabinet. They'll put in a little cheaper millwork as standard. And then the millwork that they used to have as standard now becomes an upgrade. They'll stop finishing basements. They'll stop putting silly stuff like ledger boards on the back of a house.
Yeah.
Because they save $20 on a house, but when you're building 10,000 houses, all that kind of stuff went on. We saw that when I was building townhome developments. We condoed them. And Calvin, your mortgage industry doesn't like condos. Well, you know what a big reason for the condo was? The building structure looked the same.
Right.
But there's only one water meter.
Yep.
And that water meter is $900. Now, if you got a 12-unit building, it's 12 times 900. That's a lot of money spread out over the country when you're building 5,000 or 10,000 units. But if you can get it down to 1/10 of that, you condo it, and now you only have one. That's one little thing that saves money.
Yep.
So
regarding mortgage interest rates, where we're at, things are better, right? So we're going to think of now high 6s, low 7s based on credit, down payment, all those factors. But we're in that range. And so now when you're talking about doing a 1-0 buy down, you're doing a 2-1 buy. When you're doing some of those things, you're really you're really looking attractive now. And so I think we're gonna get away from the real estate market blaming interest rates for activity and for the slowdown.
Well, what are we going to blame then?
I don't know. You guys.
Well, we're going to blame selling ahead. It's all because of COVID.
There you go.
There you go.
Got it all under control. Don't worry about
you
it.
gotta
find somewhere.
We'll find some excuses.
How about just get busy and work hard? Let's try that. Get busy, work hard, reach out, do those things that we're supposed to be doing. Let's get back to Jeff Johnson with mediation. We were talking at the end of last segment about modifiable and non-modifiable spousal maintenance. So talk about the difference in that. This is the most popular segment of the show, Jeff. So,
everybody's listening.
Everybody listens to this
they
segment.
wait to the fourth segment.
So talk a little bit about that. Give your contact information. Jeff Johnson, Mediation.
Yeah, so the modifiable, so for spousal maintenance, so let me first touch on child support. Child support is always modifiable. So you can never make that non-modifiable because that's always the jurisdiction of the court, and that always becomes modifiable with a change in circumstances. So that now spousal maintenance can be either modifiable or non-modifiable. The non-modifiable, for years, they were doing what was called a Karen waiver. A Karen waiver is making it non-modifiable. It goes back to a Karen versus Karen court case that happened a while ago about making sure that that's non-modifiable. The courts have recently changed that, though, where that can be modifiable if both of the parties agree to make that modifiable. So I'm having people come back in on post-decree where they have spousal maintenance, a Karen waiver, but they've agreed that COVID really impacted them, and it's really not fair that this person is having to pay, and this other person now is gotten a better job, and so the circumstances have changed. They want to make a change, and so now we can go back in and then petition the court to make that change.
But they both need to agree.
But they both need to agree.
Yeah, what's the point of having a Karen waiver then if you can go back on it?
The Karen waiver is if somebody doesn't agree.
Okay.
They can't go back, no matter what happens on there. But if both parties agree to make a modification now they are able to go back and do that.
Is there a threshold then to modify? Say you do a non-modifiable, and so is there a threshold of change before you can go back to the well and try to get a modification?
You've got to show need.
All right.
Is the big thing, because when you did the spousal maintenance back a long time ago, your expenses were going to be different. Your income is going to be different. You got to almost look at it now, and just so oftentimes people will come in and say, hey, we don't know if we have enough change in here to make it. Can you run the financials for us and have the conversation with us? And so we'll run all that information, put it through the financial planning part for spousal maintenance, and say, hey, it does look, here's what we're seeing. Does it feel the way that the numbers are?
Does one of the other spouses' ability to earn income factor in? Like, okay, you're not working, but look, you're this, and you have the ability to go out and earn income on your own.
Yes. So one of the first things that we look at is if somebody is seeking spousal maintenance, they've got to do whatever is necessary to kind of support themselves first. So if they're working a part-time job on there and they're asking for maintenance to do it, we may compute it as what is the full-time equivalent of that. You can still decide not to work full-time,
but we're going to compute it as such.
We're going to compute it as such. So you make a conscious decision then that you're going to have to make up that gap somewhere, and then determine what the amount is going to be.
Now, I've never gone through a divorce and never will in my life. These two, I don't know about,
masters of divorce.
Sounds like there's some great information, though, to start with you.
Yes.
Johnson-mediation.com.
Correct.
Safe place to go. Just go to Jeff's website, Johnson-mediation.com.
Correct.
Thanks for coming in. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. That's it for this week. Log on to our website, HittnerGroup.com, HittnerGroup.com, and we'll see you next week.